Hello, welcome back to the class. We will continue our subject on English grammar and academic writing too. And today is week 5, and we will discuss about the types of sentences. So we will review a little bit about the previous lessons, and then we will go to the types of sentences, and at the end of the class you will have a practice to do. So in the previous weeks we have learned about the tense. We learned about the form of the 12 tenses, and you also learned the special verbs, form, negative form, and question form. And last week we talked about sentence. In one sentence we need two important components, which are the subject and the predicate. Subject can be simple subject or compound subject, or we can say a complete subject. And in predicate we can have a simple predicate, complete predicate, and even the compound predicate. And usually we have the complement after the predicate, and we have talked about different kinds of complements to complete the predicate. We have direct object, we have indirect object, we have a predicate nominative, we have predicate adjective, we have adjective complement. Those are the kinds of complements that we use in the predicate. And today we will continue about sentences. But before we go to the structure of different type of sentences, I want to review a little bit about the types of sentences based on the purposes. So when we write sentence, we have different purposes to write sentence. You can write a sentence as a declarative sentence, the kind of sentence that we use to declare something or for statement. And normally negative and positive sentence that we end with full stop are declarative sentence. And when you want to ask questions, you will use interrogative sentence, which ends with the question mark. And another kind is exclamatory sentence. We use this sentence when we want to show strong feeling, and this sentence ends with exclamation mark. The last kind is imperative sentence, the kind of sentence that we use to give command. And normally we do not have the subject. We can use full stop or exclamation mark for these kinds of sentence. And imperative sentence, actually it has the subject, but we just omitted. The subject is you. For example, I can say, open your book. This is imperative sentence, but the subject is you. We just don't put it in a sentence because we want to make it as a command. When we talk about sentence structure, we can divide sentence types into 4. We have simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. Now let's begin with the first types of sentences, which is simple sentence. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence has one independent clause, or a simple sentence is one subject-verb combination. So these are the definition of simple sentence. We can also say a simple sentence is one subject-verb pair. I would like to remind you about what is a sentence. So a sentence is a group of words that contain at least one subject and one verb, and it has a complete thought or a complete idea. And a sentence is an independent clause. An independent clause is a sentence. We just use different name. To write simple sentence, there are 4 formulas. We can write simple sentence with the formula SV. We can write simple sentence with the formula SSV, SVV, or SSVV. The letter S represents the subject, and the letter V represents the verb. So, simple sentence with the formula SV, that means we have one subject and one verb. This is the first formula of simple sentence. For example, Jane went to the pool. Jane is the subject, and went is the verb. Paul is very nice guy. Paul is the subject, and is the verb. In this sentence, we have only one subject and one verb. I love chocolate ice cream. I is the subject, love is the verb. Only one subject and one verb. Bikes are very expensive. Bikes is the subject, are is the verb. So in these 4 sentences, we have only one subject and one verb. They are the simple sentence with the formula SV. We can also write a simple sentence with the formula SSV. When we say SS, we mean compound subject with one verb. For example, Bill and Sue want to go to the movies. So in this sentence, we have Bill and Sue as a compound subject with only one verb, want. These are some more examples of the simple sentence with the formula SSV, or compound subject with one verb. Bill and Sue want to go to the movies. Jason and his friends work together. Are the car and truck parked outside? Even though this one is the question form, but it's still the simple sentence with the formula SSV. Number 4, the park and sidewalks were covered with snow. Hiding and seeking are fun activities. So these 5 sentences are still the simple sentence, but the difference is the formula. We use the formula SSV, or compound subject with one verb. Another formula of simple sentence is SVV. That means compound verb. Just like the subjects, sentences can have 2 or more words that represent the action. For example, Jill ran and sang down the street. So in this sentence, we have only one subject, but we have compound verb, ran and sang. So these are the examples of the simple sentence with the formula SVV, or one subject with the compound verbs. Sally swam and played all afternoon. The dogs had barked all night and slept all day. Michelle came home yesterday and did not work all day. The baseball team rode on a bus and flew in a plane to attend the game. The park is dark and spooky at night and can be delightful on sunny days. So in these 5 sentences, we can see that we have only one subject, but with compound verbs, with 2 verbs. The last formula of simple sentence is SSVV, or we can say compound subject with the compound verbs. With the compound verb, some sentences have both a compound subject and a compound verb. What is a compound subject and what is a compound verb? That means we have two or more subjects or two or more verbs in one simple sentence. Look at the examples. The ponies and calves scampered and played in the field. Kathy and her father do not like to play tennis and hate to jog. The army and the navy had a football game and filled the stadium. So we can see in these sentences we have compound subject and compound verb, or we have two subjects with two verbs. But actually we can have three subject or three verb in a sentence, but they still compound subject and compound verb. Again, we have four types of sentences in English writing. We have simple sentence, we have compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. But in simple sentence, we have different formula. We have four formulas to write simple sentence. We can write simple sentence with the formula SV. That means we have only one subject and one verb. We can write simple sentence with the formula SSV. That means we have two subjects with one verb. Or SVV, one subject with two verbs. Or even the compound subject with the compound verb, SSVV. So these are the four formulas to write simple sentence. So now let's discuss compound sentence. Compound sentence is another kind of sentence in English writing. So what is a compound sentence? A compound sentence is a sentence. It is one sentence that joins two independent clauses or two simple sentences together with a coordinating conjunction or semicolon. So to write a compound sentence, we need two independent clauses or two simple sentences that join together by coordinating conjunctions or semicolon. And sometimes we call coordinating conjunction fanboys. We write compound sentence instead of simple sentence because we want to make short sentences into a compound sentence. You don't want to write short sentences in your paragraph or essays all the time. You want to make it longer by joining small sentences into a longer one. For example, the cat was happy. He slept underneath the bed. These are short sentences. You can join these two sentences by making it compound sentence. The cat was happy and he slept underneath the bed. So we have two simple sentences joined together by a comma and a coordinating conjunction and. So most of the students like to call coordinating conjunction fanboys because it is easy to remember these 7 coordinating conjunctions. So each letter in the word fanboys represent different coordinating conjunction. The letter F represents for, the letter A represents and N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. And they have different meanings. So in compound sentence, we need a comma and a fanboys or coordinating conjunction. The teens walked to the park, but it was closed. The gentleman did not know where the sound came from, so he hid under the tree. So to make a compound sentence, we need two sentences joined together by a comma and a coordinating conjunction of fanboys. We can also write a compound sentence without a coordinating conjunction. We can use semicolon instead of the fanboys. For example, the teacher applauded the class, semicolon. The kids beamed with pride. The dog ate, the cat slept. But sometimes when we use semicolon to join two sentences together, the meaning might not be clear. So the best way to make a compound sentence is by using coordinating conjunctions or fanboys. So now let's go to the complex sentence. And actually we will discuss complex sentence again when we talk about clause and types of clauses. Because to write a complex sentence, we need different kinds of clause. We need independent clause with the dependent clause to make or to form a complex sentences and compound sentences. But for now, we will talk about complex sentence and compound sentence just a little bit before we go to the clause. So what is a complex sentence? A complex sentence contains both an independent and a dependent clause. A complex sentence may contain more than just two clauses. A complex sentence may be combined with a compound sentence to form a compound complex sentence. When you add dependent clause into a simple sentence, that sentence will become complex sentence. And when you add dependent clause into compound sentence, that sentence will become compound complex sentence. But now we haven't discussed about independent clause and dependent clause. So just learn a little bit about these two types of sentences, complex sentence and compound complex sentence. So to form a complex sentence, we need independent clause with dependent clause together to form one complex sentence. So what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. It sounds like a sentence, right? But sometimes a clause can stand alone as a sentence, but sometimes it cannot. That's why we have two types of clause. We have an independent clause and dependent clause. An independent clause shortly is a sentence. It is a sentence because it has a subject and verb, and it can stand alone as a sentence with a complete thought. You can understand independent clause because it is a sentence. But a dependent clause also have a subject and a verb, but it cannot stand alone as a sentence because it does not have a complete thought or a complete idea. For example, although I was tired, you cannot understand this sentence even though it has a subject and a verb. Unlike an independent clause, I studied for the test. It is a sentence and it is an independent clause. So you can understand complex sentence by understanding the independent clause and dependent clause, because a complex sentence contains an independent clause and dependent clause. When we join the previous two clauses together, we will have although I was tired, I studied for the test. Now this one sentence has independent clause and dependent clause. I studied for the test is an independent clause, and although I was tired is dependent clause. You can change places for these two clauses. I studied for the test although I was tired. Dependent clause usually begins with subordinating conjunctions. That's why sometimes people call it subordinator clause, because it begins with the subordinating conjunction. We will discuss about dependent clause next week. We will discuss different types of dependent clauses that begin with subordinating conjunction, like because, since, when, while, although, even though, if, as, whereas. So these are the subordinating conjunction that we use to create dependent clause. So when we write a complex sentence, we will have at least one independent clause and one dependent clause. And dependent clause begin with subordinating conjunctions. When we put dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence, we need a comma to separate it from the main clause or independent clause. Like, because I didn't study, I didn't pass the exam. But when we move dependent clause to the end of the sentence, we will have I didn't pass the exam because I didn't study. So when we put dependent clause in front of the sentence, we need a comma. Alright, so now it's time for the activities. I have prepared some exercises for you. So do it and send your answers to me before next week. And thank you for today, and see you next week, everybody.